Hey everybody, it's me, Jesse, and I just want to tell you a little bit about my Google interview experience. My last video, I talked about the overall job hunting experience, and I mentioned the Google interview a little bit, but several of you asked for more details, so here they are. Um, when I first put out my message on Twitter that I was looking for work, um, I got a response from a Google recruiter, and which was amazing, right? I had applied to positions at Google for their Pittsburgh office, and even with a reference, I still couldn't even get an interview. So I was pretty amazed at that. That just I guess it kind of shows like the power of having a good Twitter network. So I got an email from a recruiter, or it might have been a DM on Twitter, actually. I don't remember for sure. But either way, message back and forth a little bit, set up a phone call. So that first phone call was just with the recruiter and we just talked like about what what I do, what my past experience was, and what I'm interested in now. And then we talked a little bit about the role at Google and whether or not I'd be interested in it. So, really basic, no technical questions or anything like that. And then after that, the next step was to set me up with a technical interview over the phone. Um, so the way we did it was I had a Google Doc. So there was a link to a Google Doc, a shared Google Doc. I went there, and then I was asked a coding question, and I had to type out my answer in the Google Doc. So to my surprise, the question was actually way more front end oriented and didn't have much to do with data structures or algorithms. I had heard, um, from other people, from sources online and in books, that you needed to know your data structures and algorithms to work at Google, but I I didn't have any. This was basically just a front end based question. So it may disappoint some of you to know that I'm not going to give you the exact questions. I don't think they would be that helpful actually, because the odds of getting the same question are very slim. Each interviewer has freedom to ask, whatever questions they want to ask. So um, it probably wouldn't be that helpful anyway. But it was more front end oriented. I got to use JavaScript, and I thought that I did okay on it. It seemed easier than I expected, and I didn't. I wasn't really expecting to move on to the next round. Although I did better than I thought, I wasn't expecting it. Right. To prepare, I had looked at some like online training. So there are several websites out there that'll let you do algorithm problems, and just test yourself on them. So there's a website called Pramp, Pramp, and you can actually interview with other people. So the way it works is you schedule time. The first, I think, half hour, one person interviews the other one, and then you switch roles, and then you go for another. I believe it's a half an hour. So I did a little bit of that, and that was kind of nice just to practice like talking through things. I mean, through the live coding that I do for Free Code Camp, I was already used to talking through coding, so that wasn't really a big deal for me. But it was good to like be under pressure with a question that you don't know beforehand. So on the front end related stuff, I did great on. Anytime I tried to do a data structure algorithm problem, I was not great with that. Um, but luckily, the first interview, all front end, ended up getting a call back, and the same recruiter that first contacted me from Google contacted me again and said that they would like me to come out to Mountain View, California, and do 5 interviews over the course of a day out at their main campus in Mountain View. So I was totally stunned. Like I mean, I honestly did not think that that was a possibility. Even when I got the phone call, I'm expecting like, wow, this was really nice that, she took the time to call me and tell me that I didn't move on to the next round, but I was, so pleasantly surprised and so happy. So at that point, I'm gonna be 100% honest. I had quit studying for the Google interviews because I just thought there's no way. Um, because you always hear how hard it is to get into Google and how talented the people that work there are, and I just didn't consider myself at that level yet. But anyway, I get moved on to the next round, right? So the way the process works, Google handles everything, your flights, your hotel. Um, they scheduled all the flights. We flew out. Um, this was maybe this was really shortly after I got the call because I had some other job offers and I didn't want to keep them waiting. So normally there'd be a little bit more time, but for me, I think it was less than a week between when I found out I was going to go for the interviews and then me actually flying out there. So I go out to Mountain View and I get there kind of like in the evening. I have one night in the hotel, and in the morning I wake up. I go to my interviews. So I'll give you a little play-by-play of how it went. Um, I thought that my first interview was at 9:30, so I got there early enough for that, and it turns out my first interview wasn't until I think like 10:15 a.m. So that was okay. I was just there early, which is better than being late, but it gave me some time to just sit there and be nervous. um, but they came, they got me for my first interview. They took me to, so this building had so many rooms, right? This is one of many buildings on campus. There are a lot of rooms, so they actually took me first to another building. So we left the first building, went to another building, and went into a room there, and I had two interviews back to back in that particular room. So I think those two interviews went well. Those were probably my best interviews. Both of those were very front end related. So no data structure algorithm stuff, more like DOM manipulation, um, just kind of like basic like handling of data, using for loops and things like that. So yeah, not bad. I felt like I had kind of a good conversations with my interviewers. So I was feeling pretty good after that. Um, I I think my first interview I probably did the best. The second interview, I think I wish that I would have had a little bit more time. So it's like I had a solution, but it was like I had ideas to make it better. So then after that, I think after that was that. Then it was lunch, right? So then they have a Google employee escort you to the cafeteria and you have lunch. That's not part of the interview process, so you're not being judged on what you talk about at lunch. I've heard stories of people saying that you are. It may have been in the past that happened, but they told me several times throughout the day that that's not part of the interview process. I could just relax. So it was cool. I got to talk to a guy who worked on the Pixel 3, the hardware for the Pixel 3, and I had just bought a Pixel 3, so it was kind of cool. We could talk about it, and yeah, so it was nice. And I got really had like some really honest answers about things like housing, especially with a family. This guy had a few kids, and talking about, well, how long is your commute, and how long, how much does it cost to live around here. So that was a lot of good info for me. I have four kids, and so that's being able to find a place that can fit four kids is important. Uh, so I go back into my original building after that and find a room, and it takes a little while to find the room. I think we got lost. So this is how big Google's campus is. People who have been employed there for a while were actually getting lost trying to find the room where the interviews were in. So my next interview actually, I think I missed out on at least like 10 to 15 minutes of the time for the interview because my interviewer got lost on the way over. So that really messed me up for that particular interview. And for that one, I actually got to use a laptop with a code editor. All the other interviews were all just on a whiteboard with a marker. So I really wish I would have had the full amount of interview time for that because I definitely knew how to solve the problem. I just had such a small amount of time, it was difficult. I will say this, two of my interviewers had really heavy accents. It was difficult for me to understand, and that definitely threw me. So I mean, I kind of didn't expect that, but it does make a difference, right? Like when you are interviewing with somebody that speaks the same language like natively and is basically a part of the same like culture, it's easy to pick up on lots of cues, even like nonverbal cues like manners of speaking, and to get some feedback, just by talking. But when you're talking to somebody who is a non-native speaker of your language, who kind of pretty obviously, came over, to your country later in life, right? It's a lot harder to pick up on those cues. I'm not sure if are they happy with my answer? Are they not happy with my answer? Are they annoyed at this point? Are they joking? Are they? Yeah, it was really hard to get a read. So that definitely threw me off for two of the interviews, and then so the last two interviews were again on a whiteboard, um, you know, writing out all my code. So that was that was the interview process. I will say you definitely need to be comfortable talking while you're writing out your code. That's a big thing. I kept being reminded of that by the preparation emails that Google sent me, all the training materials that they sent me, which they do send you training materials. Some of the books that I got. So one book that was a big help was Cracking the Coding Interview, which was recommended to me by several people. Definitely helpful. The algorithm stuff, not so helpful because I didn't get asked about that. But the general, interview prep and just the explanation that the book gives about what the interviewers are looking for, and what they're thinking, definitely helped. It helped me to kind of guide the answers I gave and what I focused on. So I left the interviews with about the same feeling that I had from that first technical interview that I had over the phone, which was this was easier than I thought it would be, but I'm not sure that I did well enough to move on. So afterwards, they have kind of a candidate center where you can go and check out some Google products, use them, talk to recruiters about your experience, ask questions about Google. So I went over there and talked with some of the recruiters that were there, and somebody that I know that works at Google came over after some meetings, and we talked for a while about the interviews and about what it's like for them at Google. So that was really good. It was some good information. It was nice to be able to see them again. We had both been to some of the same conferences before, so it was cool to be able to catch up. And then after that, I had since I was coming from the East Coast of the U.S., I got to stay another night. So just got to stay one more night, flew out early the next morning, and that was it. That was my process. So that was on, I think I got back on a Friday, and then I got a call Monday night from my recruiter letting me know that I would not be moving on. And essentially moving on at that point means getting an offer, right? There's a couple steps that need to go on Google's end of things to determine how much to offer and what team I would be on. But for the candidate, at that point, you pretty much are just waiting to hear whether or not you get an offer. So didn't get the offer. Of course, I was a little bit disappointed, but I didn't really have an expectation of getting the offer. So I mean, I don't know if that was like realistic, like if that was imposter syndrome or me just trying to brace myself for to not be disappointed. But I had some great offers, and if you want to hear more about the other offers and everything, check out my last video on my job interview experience. But it was almost a relief to me because then it I had I had lots of options, and it made it hard to make a decision. So that just took one option off the table, and it took some hard decisions off the table for me. Mainly moving my family all the way across the country, going somewhere where we didn't really know. We didn't know anybody. I mean, I knew one person from some conferences, but like my kids didn't know anybody. They'd be going to different schools, so it would be a big move, and it would have been a hard decision, especially if the salary would have been competitive with the other offers, which I'm assuming it would be because Google can afford to do that. Uh, it would have been a heartbreaking decision either way. To move would have been heartbreaking, to move away from family, but to turn down Google would have been heartbreaking as well, because you have the opportunity to build things sometimes that are really cutting edge that you couldn't build anywhere else. You have the opportunity to build things that are used by millions of people, which is it's a rare thing. You also, the fact that you would have Google on your resume would help so much in future job opportunities. So I'm almost I'm glad. I actually am glad that I didn't have to make that decision because it would have, no matter what. I mean, it's almost like um, I don't know. It would have been good either way. I'm sure it would have worked out well, but it also would have involved a lot of sadness either way. So overall, it was a wonderful experience for me. It's just to be able to get as far as I did in the process was amazing. It I think it helped me to see how far I'd come and how much my skills had increased. It's just hard to know. Um, there's not It's not like you can take a developer test and it'll tell you how good of a developer you are. Really, it's just but being able to get that far in an interview with a company that interview so many people. They really know what they're doing at the interview process, and they're notoriously challenging. It was good. And it kind of gave me a confidence that I think has already had an impact on me and my work, and I think it will continue to. So definitely, if you ever get the chance to interview at Google, especially for front end developer job, I would say this: practice doing front end type of problems. So, go online, you can go on Free Code Camp or whatever, and just take some of their challenges, their practice challenges, JavaScript stuff, um, and practice writing the solution out. If you have a whiteboard, do it on a whiteboard. If you have a piece of paper, do it on a piece of paper. Have somebody there, or at least record it, and talk while you're doing it. Watch the recording. Make sure there's no awkward silences. That is probably the key. The feedback I got was that I definitely knew JavaScript, but I just couldn't write clean code fast enough. So I think if I would have spent more time doing that, I probably would have had a much better shot of actually getting an offer. Right. So um, just work on that, on your speed and accuracy of handwriting code without the aid of your developer tools or your code editor or anything like that. And definitely, if you're not used to talking while you're coding, work on that as much as possible, even if you have to narrate to yourself while you code. That's a big deal. Your interviewers need to know what's going on inside your head, what you're thinking, because what you're thinking is almost it's more important to them than actually solving the problem. If they like the way you think and you approach problems, then you can get an offer even without having solved the problem. But even if you solve the problem and you don't let them know at all how you knew it, it's not that helpful to them. So anyway, that's my experience. That's my advice. This video is a little bit longer than I expected it to be. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. Let me know if there's anything else you want to know about my interview process or any other topics you'd like me to cover. You can comment in this video, reach out to me directly. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and please think about subscribing if you want to see more videos. Like the video, that'll let me know that you want me to keep doing more. So until next time, have a great day.